so welcome to my reading wrap up for the month of June. So we are going to be doing all the books that I read in June, and we're going to be talking about all of them. I don't know why I started this so weirdly. I'm tired. It's like 10:30 at night, but it's actually like 10:19. I'm lying to you. But actually the first time I filmed this, it didn't even record. So we're filming this like a week later. It's like the first week of July is already done. So yeah, so that's what we're doing. All right. Your girl is tired. Your girl's been busy. But we managed to read 18 books in June, which is a little bit less than I usually read. But honestly, I had such a fantastic reading month, and honestly, July is starting off with a bang as well. So I've been reading fantastic books lately. I've just been having a great time reading. I found a 6-star read in June, and honestly, my lowest rated book was 3 stars, but that was only one book. Every other book was rated 4 stars and above, so I had a great reading month. I basically made it through most of my TBR this month. I only didn't get to 3 books technically. I think I read all the rest of them, and I actually already finished the series that I started at the end of June, and then I finished the last 2 books in the series the first week of July. So we're doing great, and it was fantastic. So we're going to start. I only didn't read On Wings of Blood and The Bond That Burns by Briar Bolin, which was for my vampire prompt, because the next book in that series got pushed back to March of 2026. So I was like, I'm not going to read them until the 3rd book comes out. So I'm probably just going to binge those next March, which is fine. I'll have plenty of time to read them then. Because the 2025 releases, guys, but literally that got pushed back, I think, the week after I put them on my TBR for this month, because I was dying to read them this month, but since they got pushed back, there wasn't really a point to reading them now. And then also Billy Summers by Stephen King. I actually did start the audiobook of it, the last week of June. But then I just got obsessed with The Number in the Ashes, and I decided to read that over Billy Summers because I've been wanting to get to those for a while, and I wanted to finish the month with a series. So, and then I think that was it. I didn't really not stick to my TBR this month. There was even a week where I did a week of mood reading, and I still was able to read mostly all the books that I wanted to read this month. So we had a really great reading month. My favorite book this month was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I loved it so much. And Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. But Remarkably Bright Creatures was my favorite. Even though I gave Firefly Lane 6 stars, Remarkably Bright Creatures, I loved it. And then my least favorite book was Caught Up by Nevessa Allen, which was the sequel to Lights Out, which is the Into Darkness series. So we're going to talk about that later, so let's get into it. So the first book that I read in June was Air of Storms by Lauren Hamilton Murphy. And I actually found this a week early at Barnes because this came out, I believe, June 3rd, and I finished it literally, I think, the morning of when it came out, or maybe the night before. And this is about a girl named Blaze, and basically she is like a storm weaver, or like a wind, what is she? A rain singer, which is just such a cool name. And basically she comes from a long line of fire welders in her family, and she causes this huge storm to happen when she's younger, and it causes for a lot of people to be wiped out. And she basically has to live with this reputation of and people fear her because they think that this is going to happen again. So basically she has to but as she comes of age, she has to become the ruler of her people. She has to be coronated and take over ruling her subjects. So, but people are still afraid of her. So basically she proves throughout the book that people shouldn't be fearing her, but also her powers haven't really been 100% since this happened. And there's also a set of trials that are happening. So she has to go through this training with her other competitors in order to win these trials. And I really liked this book. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny. I just feel like the trials were a little bit rushed. I felt like we could have spent a little more time on some of the trials. But besides that, this was great. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I'm really excited to see where this series goes. I believe it's going to be a trilogy. Yeah, it says YA Romantasy Trilogy, and I really liked it so far. So yeah, that was the first book I read in June. And then the second book that I read was Every Time, hold on, why isn't the image loading? Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. I believe this has been on my TBR for a while, and I knew I wanted to read it this summer. So this book was freaking hysterical, you guys. Do not believe the low reviews of this book. I think people give this book low reviews because there's a lot of good read references in it, and how like people give out 1-star reviews, which honestly, I didn't really mind it. I thought this book was so funny because the breaking of the fourth wall in this book is just so hilarious, and I really, really loved it. So basically, it's about an author of a best-selling series, and it's called the Vacation Mystery Series, and her name is Eleanor Dash, and she has like this rival author named Connor Smith, and she was like always like really just not liked him. And they go on like this book tour for her upcoming book, like a PR tour pretty much. And they go to Italy for this tour, and people end up dying. People end up getting murdered. And that's pretty much all I'm going to tell you. But this book was so funny. I'm actually currently listening to the second one. That is my audiobook listen right now. And it's called No One Was Supposed to Die at the Wedding. And I'm loving this one too. It's just such a fun series. If you need something that's like super White Lotus vibes, but not as dark, this is more like honestly cozy murder mystery or just humorous murder mystery. I would definitely check this series out. I just have such a good time with these. So yeah, I gave this one, I believe, a 4.5 as well. Did I give it a 4.5? Yeah, 4.5 stars. Started off the month with a bang. It was just so much fun. I really enjoyed this book. Okay, next up was a buddy read with my book bestie Felicia. We actually got through 2 buddy reads in June, so I will talk about the second one later. So the next one that we read together was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. This has been on my TBR since it came out because I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I loved it. So, so good. I gave this book a 4.5 stars as well. It was very close to being a 5-star. There was just a couple of things that were just a little bit too over descriptive for me, that it got a little bit too like info dumpy, but besides that, this book was fantastic. So basically this book is about a woman that washes up on this shore, and there's a family of like 4 different people, like a father named Dominic, and like I believe it's his 3 children that are just living on this island, and they're living by themselves. Like literally everything else has been wiped out on this island, and this island is actually dying. And they did have like a team of scientists that lived on this island because they were constantly like conducting experiments, and there was like a medical wing. If like somebody who lived on the island who got sick, they would go there and they would be taken care of. So basically this woman washes up on shore, and they're like, fuck you doing here, you know? And she's like, why are you guys living here? So it's just, it goes from there. And I don't really want to say anything else, but oh my God, this book was fantastic. This was one of my favorite mystery, pretty much almost thriller books. I loved it. This was my favorite like mystery that I've read in quite a while, because I felt a little bit creeped out by this book a couple of times, and it was just so fantastically written. I cannot wait to read her next book when it comes out, but I think this book deserves all the hype it's getting, and I loved this way more than The God of the Woods. Even though The God of the Woods was good, this was shorter than that, And I think it was better. The God of the Woods was still really well written as well, and I did enjoy it, but that book was so damn long. So yeah, love this book. That's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say, because you just really need to read this book in order to understand what, why it's so good. But what I love about Charlotte McConaughey's writing is that she really, oh my God, I cannot say her name. McConaughey, yeah. Is that she is so amazing about immersing you into the atmosphere of this island. You literally feel like you are there experiencing these things with these characters because that's how good she is at immersing you into this world. And it was just so fucking good. I loved it. And just weird things start happening after she washes up on shore. And there's like very interesting things about like the children, because the children have been so isolated from outside society for so long, that like she's like the first new person that they've met in a while, because like again, everyone else on this island has been wiped out. So initially she comes to this island because she's looking for her husband, because she knows that was staying on this island working for like the experiments in the laboratory and stuff, because he was a scientist as well. So she wants to find out what the fuck happened to him. So that's all I'm going to say. So yeah, next up, I read His Face is the Sun by Michelle Jabez Corpora, and this is a YA fantasy with a subplot of romance. I wouldn't say a YA romantasy, I would say YA fantasy. Oh, you guys, this was so good too. I really enjoyed this book. This one was actually on my TBR for May, but like I said before, May was in my TBR video for May. There was like 10 million new releases in May. So I finally finished like I think 3 other May releases this month, in June. And I just really, really loved this. It was really well written. I just was hoping for a little bit more action at the end, because honestly, if there was like some type of battle at the end, I feel like this book could have been a 5-star read for me, because I just really enjoyed it. There was so many interesting storylines in this book, and I gave this book a 4.25 stars. And basically it's from 4 different characters' POVs, which is, not Katara. That's literally what it's called. And this is an epic Egyptian fantasy, and I've been dying to read some Egyptian fantasy books, and it's so good. And what's so crazy is that I ended up reading this along with, An Ember in the Ashes as well, and they do compare, An Ember in the Ashes to this book as well. This book is compared to that series. And I do definitely see the similarities between, like, if you would like An Ember in the Ashes, I think you would like this book, because I loved both of them. So, anyway, but not This Woven Kingdom. I just really didn't like those books. But it does say Terra Mafia as well. So anyway, it's from 4 different characters' perspectives, which is Neff, Ray, Kareem, and what's her name? Sita. Sita is the pharaoh's daughter. Neff is a kind of like dreamer, and kind of like she has these really strong premonitions in her dreams, and she ends up having to, or maybe it's Ray. No, it's Neff. She ends up working in the palace for the brother of Sita. And they end up developing like a friendship. And then Ray is a peasant girl that is trying to lead the rebellion to rebel against the pharaoh's corrupt ruling. And then Kareem is a grave robber, like a tomb robber, pretty much. Not a grave robber, tomb robber. And he's the only male POV that we get, but honestly, so good. You guys need to read this book. There's just so much happening in this book. But I think that she balanced these characters very well. In the beginning, I was a little bit confused, but that was the only reason why I gave it a 4.5. But seriously, such a fun read. So you just need to read this book in order to understand what I'm talking about. Because again, I don't want to spoil anything. Okay, so next up, we're finally going to get into some physical books, because Actually, Air of Storms I read completely physically, but then I returned it because I felt like I didn't need it. Every time I go on vacation, someone dies. I did read 100 pages of it physically, and I did have the Libby loan on my Kindle, and I also listened to the audiobook. And then Wild Dark Shore, I did get an early copy of on Libby, like a skip the line copy, I mean. So I had to read that before it expired, so that's why I read that on Libby. And also, I did listen to it on Spotify, and His Face is the Sun I read on Libby and also listened to it on Libby as well. So then now, well, actually, I didn't even read this physically. You guys know I only listen to these via audio, and I only get them from Audible, and that is Releasing 10, which is Boys of Tommen number 6, which is by Chloe Walsh. And you guys know this is like my favorite series of all time. I've given every single book in this series 5 stars. I absolutely love these books so much, but oh my god, this book was painful, you guys. This was probably the hardest book I had to get through this year. Really, really, really sad. So this one was about Lizzie and Hughie. And I finally decided to pick up the physical books because I'm like, there is no way I can't own these books. Like, because they just hold such a special place in my heart, and these characters are like ingrained into my heart and soul, like injected into my bloodstream. I love them so much. I also thought I really wasn't going to love Lizzie in this book because, as you guys know, in Taming 7, I thought she was so mean to Gibbsy, and you guys know Gibbsy is my all-time favorite character in any series of all time. I love him so much to death, and he's like my teddy bear. I love him so much. So I was like, if you hurt my Gibbsy, it makes me sad. So, but holy shit, this book was so freaking sad. So please look up your trigger warnings before you read this. There's a lot of cutting in this. There's a lot of unaliving thoughts. There's scenes of child abuse and also child rape. So just be careful going into this book. It was a very hard, heavy read. But you can honestly understand what Lizzie was going through in this book. Holy shit. To be in her head in this book was absolutely devastating. And that's all I'm going to say. But basically, this is technically a prequel to Boys of Tommen, but you read it in the order that she's been releasing them. Releasing 10, okay? So, incredible book, but oh my god, I sobbed reading this book. It was actually probably the most that I've cried from a Boys of Tommen book, which is crazy because I did cry in Saving and Redeeming 6 because some of Joey's scenes in Saving and Redeeming are so sad. But I didn't cry in Binding and Keeping 13 or Taming 7, but I still loved them. But this was the heaviest book in the series so far. Just really sad what Lizzie goes through. And then Taming 7, you would think that Gibbsy and Lizzie would relate more with, you know, some of the things that they go through. But I'm not going to say anything else. But there's a lot of animosity between the two of them. So yeah, but Hughie basically is her savior in this book. And he tries to, you could have called this saving, well, actually Releasing 10 makes a lot of sense, actually. But you could have called this Saving 10 as well, because he's like her Aoife, he's her Johnny, he's her Claire. So, yeah, just really, really good. Absolutely love this. And oh my god, it just broke my heart. This book was really, really, really hard to read. So, yeah. So anyway, next up, I needed something that was completely the opposite. I was like, I really cannot cry again. I was like, I don't think I can go into the next book that I want to read without reading something that I was like more so in the mood for and something that would uplift me a little bit more after reading that devastating book. Hold on one second. I just wanted to make sure that clip recorded, and it did. Thank God. So the next book I went into was One Italian Summer by Rebecca Surley. I actually had In 5 Years on my TBR by Rebecca Surley this month, but I was like, I really wanted to go into like a summer read. So I was like, I just really wanted to read this. And this book only took me a day to finish because you guys, her books are so short. They're only like 250 pages, and you feel like she's just such a good storyteller, and you feel like her books are really complete, even though they're really short. I think that she's just such a good writer. And if you're a fan of Ashley Poston's books, because Ashley Poston is so popular, I feel like Rebecca Surley isn't as popular. Her writing is very similar to Ashley Poston's writing, a lot of magical realism and a lot of beautiful quotes and passages. I just really love both of their writing. So this is my second book from Rebecca Surley because I did read Expiration Dates earlier this year. And then the next book I'm going to read by Rebecca Surley is In 5 Years. So anyway, this book is about Katie Silver, and her mom's name is Carol. And basically, Kathy's mother, oh my God, Katie's mother unfortunately passes away. And it's basically about that Katie's mother was her soulmate. But Katie is married. And after her mother passes away, that basically triggers a lot of problems that have been underlying in Katie's marriage for like a long time. It just kind of brings them to the surface. But also, before Katie's mother died, her and her mother were planning this big trip to Italy because Katie's mother was always raving about that she was dying to go back to Italy. She had lived in Italy for a while, and she wanted to take Katie back to the places that she went to when she was in Italy. So Katie decides to take this trip by herself because she's like, I need to leave. I need to go out there and kind of find myself again. So he basically tells her, like, you should go. So she goes, and basically she ends up meeting her past mother somehow, and she has no idea how this is possible. I thought this was really good. I really liked it. I gave it a 4.25, not as high as Expiration Dates, because Expiration Dates I gave a 4.75. I'm hoping In 5 Years is going to be a 5-star, because there's just like one or two things that I have a little bit of issues with her books, but overall I still really love them. I just didn't really love that she was pretty mean to her husband, and then there was one other thing that happened that just like annoyed me a little bit, but besides that, this was still really, really good. And it's narrated by Lauren Graham. Lauren Gilmore is the author of the Pumpkin Spice Dream Harbor books. She narrates this book, Lauren Graham. And also in the beginning of this book, there's a Gilmore Girls quote at the very beginning of this book, and then it's narrated by Lorelai Gilmore. So I thought that was really cute. I did listen to some of it on Libby, but I did read quite a lot of it physically. I think I read like 140 pages of it physically. Okay, so next up was the other heavy read that I wanted to tackle, and I finally read Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I did talk about it earlier, that this was my favorite book this month besides Remarkably Bright Creatures. This book was fan-fucking-tastic, you guys. 6-star read for me. Holy crap. Just, I know as soon as I pick up a Kristen Hanna book, it's going to be phenomenal. I just put off her books because I know they're going to make me very emotional, because I cried for a good 10 minutes after I finished this book. I cried a couple times before the end. It's just like, it was just such an incredible read, you guys. And also this book kind of reminded me of my best friend, because unfortunately my best friend passed away from cancer pretty much 4 years ago already, which is crazy that it's been 4 years since it happened. So basically this book is about Kate and Tully, and Kate comes from a pretty privileged family. Her family loves her and would do anything for her. And Tully has had the exact opposite experience with her family. Her mother's kind of a pothead and also an alcoholic. And her grandmother basically takes care of her. But something traumatic happens to Tully at this party that Kate and Tully are at. One night that they go to like this high school party, Kate ends up finding Tully, asks her if she's okay, and they end up forming a friendship because, they want to keep what happened to her a secret. and they end up being like friends for life. Fast forward to when they get older and they go to college. Well, actually, it's not that much further along because I think they met when they were like 12 or 13, and then they stay friends for life. Tully makes a pact with Kate that she wants to become a news anchor. But Kate ends up finding out that that's not really her dream, and it ends up causing some rifts in Tully and Kate's friendship. But what I really did love about this is that I feel like it was very realistic of a girl's friendship. And I know some people didn't love that. Like Jamie Folk also read this book in June, which is crazy that we both read it in the same month. She said that she didn't love the way that Tully treated Kate, but also girls' friendships are very realistic that way, because I have a few girlfriends as well, and sometimes there is an underlying jealousy because we're girls. That's just how we are. There's always a underlying competition about everything that we do, because Kate always felt like Tully got everything that she wanted, and she was always jealous of Tully and getting like guys, and also they ended up being in love with the same man. So there was a lot of that. And then like part 3 is like really, really sad. I don't want to say anything else because what I had said before and how I related about my best friend. So take that for what you will. I really want to watch the series though, but I feel like I'm just going to cry my eyes out again. So, but a phenomenal read. Oh my God, this was my favorite book by Kristen Hanna so far. This is my 3rd book by her. I read Night Road and The Nightingale, and they were both 5-star reads, and this is obviously a 6-star. So I'm working on my Kristen Hanna books over the next couple of months throughout this year, because I want to read 3 more of her books before the year is over. Okay, so next up was Caught Up by Nevessa Allen. I also listened to this completely on Libby. And I only listened to these books because I love the narrators of these books. But I thought the female narrator of this book was so annoying. She had like such a Valley Girl voice that it like really turned me off from reading this. And Teddy Hamilton, I love him, but unfortunately, even he couldn't save this book. And honestly, his voice kind of annoyed me when he started narrating some of Josh's parts, because Josh and Allie are from the first book. And this book just had like no plot. It really had no plot. I gave it a 3 stars, but honestly, I was thinking about lowering it to a 2-star. But honestly, 2-star reads are like, I just cannot get through the book. Like, this was enjoyable enough for me to finish it, but it wasn't great. But obviously, I wanted to listen to it so I can get to the 3rd book. So basically, this is about, what are their names? Junior and Lauren. And basically, Junior, stalks Lauren. He's been in love with her since high school. And they end up having to, I forget even how they end up like having to work together. I think because he watches Lauren's videos on her TikToks, because she runs like an explicit TikTok or whatever, or OnlyFans, who knows. And she lives with like her 2 roommates that they all like, do this for a living, which there's nothing wrong with that. So, but Junior is like a like hacker and stalker and blah, blah, blah. And he basically like, tries to stalk her and stuff because he's in love with her. But basically there was like no dark romance to it, if that makes any sense, because this is a dark romance, but it was just like so much smut and not enough plot for me. Like, just because something's a dark romance doesn't mean it can just run on smut and not have any plot, because then it can just get pretty damn boring. And that's how I felt for most of it. I don't really want to talk about it anymore because it really wasn't that great. But basically the only dark romance about it was that they had sex in churches, and they were having sex in front of a crowd. Like, because they went to this nightclub and did it in front of a crowd. And that was about it. Like, there really was not much of a plot to this. So, yeah, not even going to waste my time anymore. It just wasn't very good. It was nothing like the first book. And it made me really want to re-listen to the first book after I finished it. I probably will end up re-listening to the first book when the third book comes out, but I definitely don't need to listen to the second book again. Okay, next up was actually an ARC read, but I did pick up the physical book of this one after I read it. I got the ARC of this book 6 days before it came out. And I was like so happy. So I got the ARC of Ashley Poston's Sounds Like Love. And as you guys know, of course, we love Ashley Poston here. Like I said, I actually didn't even realize that I read one book by Rebecca Surley this month and also one book by Ashley Poston, but this one was a new release in June. So, of course, I had to read this book, and I really wanted to read it before it came out. I think I finished it like 2 days before it came out, and I really liked it. I thought this was really, really cute. I think I liked this even more than 7 Year Slip. I do really like 7 Year Slip, but I'm kind of in the minority where I actually prefer all of her other books over 7 Year Slip. It's still a good book, but Dead Romantics is my all-time favorite from her. It's actually my only 5-star from her. This one I gave a 4.25 as well. I still really, really enjoyed it. So basically this one is about, and I picked up the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition because I liked the blue color more so than the purple one. But when I saw the purple one in person, yeah, the purple one has like the yellow, more yellow writing, which I don't love. I think I like the writing on this one more. So I liked that this was blue instead. So anyway, this one was about, what is her name? I do have the freaking book right in front of me. Joni Lark, and the man's name is, what the hell is his name? Why don't I never remember his damn name? He's like a music star. He's like a rock star, actually, music star. I think his name is Danny. I cannot remember. I think his name is Danny. I don't know. So basically, Joni is a songwriter, and she is going on tour with like this big famous pop star that she writes songs for. And Danny is this huge rock star. And basically they end up kissing in the first chapter. And she's always thought that he was like a pompous ass. And she goes up to like his booth at the concert. And she's like, I want to join you in your booth because, I just want to watch the show. And he thought that she was like this just random person that he didn't know. And she's like, yeah, I like write the songs for her. So unfortunately, her mother suffers from early onset Alzheimer's, I believe. I'm not sure if it's Alzheimer's or dementia. And her father, has been taking care of her this whole time in I forget where she has to go back to. North Carolina. She lives in LA, obviously, because she's a songwriter, but she's felt guilty over all this time, so she feels like she has to go back and visit her parents. So she goes back, and she's been suffering from like serious writer's block for a while, and then she starts hearing like this voice in her head, and she's like, how the hell am I hearing this person? And this person ends up helping her write a love song. And it just was really, really cute. I really enjoyed it. So that's all I'm going to give you guys. And, obviously the person in her head is the person that she ends up being with. And it was just so cute. I love her writing. So, yeah, I really, really liked this book. Okay, next up. So I did read quite a few physical books this month. Next up was Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This one has been on my TBR for quite a while as well. This one was actually kind of a breath of fresh air from Mr. Bachman because I usually cry every single time I read his books, so that's why I kind of put off his books a little bit longer. But this one, I did not cry from. I thought that this book was fucking hysterical, but of course, this is a dark comedy, so check your trigger warnings with this one because it can be a little bit triggering for some people because there are some unaliving thoughts in this book. So this book was just so funny though to me. It's a dark comedy. I think I said that before. Why did my Goodreads do that? And of course, this was a 5-star read for me. I actually wasn't sure about this one until like the last 20 pages, and that like solidified my rating for this book because he always brings it home in the end. I just love his writing. So this one is about a whole bunch of people, and basically they're in a hostage situation. Because originally the robber tries to rob a bank, but the bank has no money, so they end up going to like this real estate. I mean this what do you call it? Open house of an apartment showing, and they end up trying to steal money from the people that are at the open house. So they end up taking these people hostage in the apartment that they're showing it in. And it was just so funny, but also like these people that are in the apartment form like bonds and friendships with each other being trapped in this apartment for so long. And I don't know how he does it with so many different characters and you're not confused or annoyed about how many different characters are in his books. He just is so genius the way that he interweaves multiple different characters and POVs so seamlessly. It's just like amazing. And also the thing is that after the hostage situation, there's the two policemen of this book, which also you get a lot of background on the two policemen as well. Like, again, I don't know how he does it and balances so well. They interview like all the hostages that are in this book, in the hostage situation, like after it happens. And they're so, so funny. I'm so happy that I listened to the audiobook during those interviews because they're hilarious to listen to. And it's the same narrator for every book that he every audiobook for him is narrated by the same person, and she's an incredible narrator. She actually also narrated the next book that I read. She narrated Remarkably Bright Creatures as well. So I thought that was so cool that I listened to back-to-back books that were narrated by her. But yeah, such a good read. I love his books so much. I cannot give his books less than 5 stars. So, but also the Netflix show, don't watch it. It was so bad. They like cut out all the hilarious interviews of the book. I was just so disappointed with the show. It was so boring. Okay, the next up, like I said, I read Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This was my absolute favorite book that I read this month. Oh my god, I'm so glad that I finally read this book, and this was my friend pick from my book bestie Felicia. She was like, you have to read this book, Caitlin. I was like, I'm finally going to read it, and I absolutely loved it. So this was about a woman named Tova, not Topha, Caitlin, Tova, all right? Let's just see if this is still recording, so hold on. Okay, we're doing good, all right? Great, so this is about Tova and a octopus named Marcellus. It's just so good, you guys. So Tova works for an aquarium, and she's an older woman, and she ends up befriending Marcellus because obviously she cleans the aquarium at night because she's the night custodian pretty much. And she had lost her son, like, I think around, like, oh, it says over 30 years ago. Damn, that's a long time. Her 18-year-old son. And she's never found his body. So basically, she has to live with, never finding her son again and having any closure. But Marcellus ends up helping her find out what happened to her son the night that he disappeared. But also, she had lost her husband before that as well. So a lot of people asked her in this book, like, how did you go on? And she just, she literally is the definition of hope. And also, this gave such a great representation of older people in life in general. I just loved her character so much because a lot of older people can get forgotten in this, especially in America, I feel like. We kind of just, like, kind of like shove them off. But it's like you could talk to old people for so long and learn so much from them. But, basically she never gave up on what happened to her son, and that kept her going. But also, Marcellus. Oh my god, Marcellus, what happened to him at the end? I was crying so much. But this was not like a devastating read. It was just like you cried because it gives you so much hope that like there are good people out there. And I can't believe this was her debut novel, you guys. Like this book was so successful. Cannot wait for I think it's going to be a movie. Cannot wait for that. Or I'm not sure if it's going to be a show or a movie, but I know there's going to be an adaptation out at some point. So excited for that. And also I cannot wait for her next book that she's written, because this is the only book that she's written so far, and this was a huge hit and I loved it. So good. So good. And there's also another perspective from another guy in this book, and you also follow his story as well, and how he and Tova and Marcellus like come together to find out what happened to her son. Just so good. Love this book so much. Everybody should read this book. It's so freaking good. Okay, next up, I actually decided to, because I needed something a little bit more uplifting again, even though I said that wasn't like super devastating. I just wanted something that I wanted to laugh with and had a good time. So I finally finished my Ali Hazelwood backlist, and I read Ali Hazelwood's Love on the Brain. This was my favorite book that I read from her. I gave this book a 5 stars. I loved this book. I thought it was just so funny. So this was about, what is her name? What is the main character's name? Bee and Levi. I can never remember their damn names. So basically Levi is like a big NASA engineer, scientist, and she has like a very unique skill set in the way that she works for NASA as well. Basically, he wants to hire her for her unique skill set that she has. And I just thought this one was very unique in the way that she told this story, because like her STEM romances can get pretty similar, but I thought this was the most interesting and the best story yet of her STEM romances, because Not in Love, Love Theoretically, and Love Hypothesis, I really like her STEM romances compared to like her non-STEM books. I haven't really gotten along with them, but meanwhile I've still have now read all of her books. So this was just such a fun time. I loved their chemistry together. Ironically, they're both scientists. And I just thought she was hysterical. You just need to read this book. There's not really much to describing this book. I just really loved it. So that's all I'm going to say. I just thought it was just so much fun. And then the rest of these I'm just going to talk about via Goodreads, because the last 2 physical books that I read this month, I put them back on my shelf with the other 2 because it was the series that I read. So the next book that I read, I only read this book because I wanted to read it in June. And after I saw Katie Whitrook put this on her TBR for June, she was like, I didn't read it last June, so now I want to read it in June. That is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I've been wanting to read this book for a while, and I wanted to see what all the hype was about with this book, but also I had read quite a few general fiction books in June, so I wasn't really sure if I was in the mood for it. Y'all, this book was fantastic. Such a good book. I gave this a 4.5 as well, maybe almost even a 4.75. I just didn't get the 5-star feelings from it, but this book was fantastic. Such a good book. And basically this was about Eva and Shane. And Eva and Shane have really troubled childhoods, okay? Again, check your trigger warnings with this one as well, because there's a lot of drug use, a lot of unaliving thoughts, a lot of, even some child neglectment. So really sad upbringings. And basically it's about their relationship in 7 Days in June that they were together. And basically they know that they've loved each other like their whole lives. And they don't really have that many friends, and they end up befriending each other like in high school. And Eva and Shane both end up becoming authors when they grow up. And there's so much. Eva's like a smut, like alien writer. It's just really funny, some of the books that she writes. And then Shane is like the complete opposite kind of writer from her. He writes like more intelligent kind of stuff and everything. But she's always proving to him that she's like, just because you write sophisticated books doesn't mean people don't learn things from my books, pretty much. Because like Just because you're reading, you always take away something from the book that you read. Like, no matter what, you know, it's always going to affect your brain and your emotions differently. So anyway, oh my God, is that a bug? Oh, it's an ant. Okay, bye. Damn it, it's too small. Just a little ant. It's fine. I thought it was a spider. I got really nervous. I need to clean my room in the worst way. It's not even funny. I just have no freaking time to, like, clean anything or do anything. Because, like, when I actually do have time, I just read. Because I barely have had time to actually read. This is the most I've read was today and yesterday. Because I actually had a shit ton of reading time yesterday and today. Thank God. So anyway, it's just so good. You guys have to read this. There's so much good commentary about Black authors writing in the industry in general. And their commentary on white authors is just so spot on. It's just so freaking good. I loved this book. It was just amazing. You have to read it. Okay, next up, I did read a romantasy. Now, this one was really good. But there was also certain parts that I didn't love, but the story was just so good and so addicting and so fast-paced. So this was another new release that came out in June, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get to it, but I just wanted to read a romantasy. And so I read A Dance of Lies by Brittany Arena, and it sounded like something that I wanted to read. And this one is about Vasily working for King Ilian. And basically, Vasily has been taken captive by King Ilian for a good, 2 years. Like, she's been imprisoned by him. And she basically has to, perform her dances for him. Because that's, kind of how the magic works in this world. But also, the king's brother is also a king of another land, I think. And he's the king of the East. It says it right there. And he offers to have her strike a bargain with him as well. So basically, Vasily has to work her whole life for these two kings. Oh, my friend is messaging me. My girl. So, Felicia's messaging me. The one that pushed me to read Remarkably Bright Creatures. Pushed me to read. How many times can I rhyme? Remarkably Bright Creatures. So yeah, this book was good. But I felt like some of the romance parts were a little bit rushed, and also I felt like the dialogue was a tiny bit cringe. But also I felt like we didn't get enough time with the characters with the romance, but I still gave this book a 4.25 stars because the plot was just so interesting, because also it's called A Dance of Lies because you don't know who's lying and who's honest and who's deceiving in this book. So I thought that was just so well done, and I really liked the dialogue. I really liked the fast-pacedness of this. I just felt like I needed a little bit more time with the characters together, but also I could kind of understand why they didn't, because she doesn't know who's lying to her. She doesn't know who she can trust. So I'm very excited to see where this book goes. I still really enjoyed it. Okay, so next up, I just really wanted to redeem dark romance book, and I really just wanted to read a dark romance book that was really highly talked about, and a lot of people were reading this book in June as well, so I'm glad that I picked up this book as well. So I just wanted to read my first Rena Kent book, and I read Beautiful Venom. Now, this was actually her newest release that came out at, I believe, the end of May, so it's not that old, and I was obsessed with this book. This was probably the most fun that I had reading a book this month. I was completely hooked on this book, so addicted to it. And I gave this book, I believe, a 4.5 stars as well. Yeah, it was so much better than Caught Up, you guys. There was a lot of smut in it, but it was just so much fun to read. And I read this on Kindle Unlimited, and I also listened to it on Audible. With A Dance of Lies, I did read the physical book, but I also listened to it as well. In 7 Days in June, I read on Libby, and I listened to it on Spotify. So I like saying what formats I read the books in if I don't own it. So this one is about Kane, my shadow daddy, Kane. Love him so much. And what is her name? What is the female's name? It doesn't say. So I don't remember. I think it's Delilah or Dahlia. I think it's Dahlia. It's Dahlia. Yay, me. So basically, Kane is like the hockey captain. It's a dark college sports romance. Dark hockey romance, pretty much. Not a sports romance. He's just on the hockey team, pretty much. And he runs this, like, basically secret society / cult. Very Eyes Wide Shut kind of vibes if you've seen that movie. That movie's fucked up. Anyway, and the cult is called the Vipers, I believe. And Dahlia thinks that the Vipers had a huge role in played a huge role in her sister being in a coma. So she wants to get into the secret society and infiltrate herself into the secret society to find out what the fuck happened to her sister. So she ends up, like, getting Kane to get her into the society. And, you know, he warns her that he's like, prepare for the longest night of your life, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's a little brutal. So, but the thing is that with the trials, I wish that they were a little bit more involved, but at the same time, like, it is a dark romance book, so it's not going to be that involved. Basically, it was just, like, him fucking her in front of everyone and, like, humiliating her, pretty much. I guess it's, like, enough to put somebody through. But also, they end up developing a romance, of course. And at the beginning of this book, it's so funny, the way that Kane ends up being down bad for her. Because before this, Dahlia was, Dahlia was, like, very confused on what she had to do for him, and he wasn't giving her shit. He's not going to tell her anything because it's, she's his, submissive pretty much until, like, later in the book. So basically, like, she texts him constantly and he leaves her on scene. Like, he's not going to answer her and tell her what's going on. He's just going to be like, be here at this time. But later in the book, he ends up texting her like that obsessively and she leaves him on scene, and it made me laugh so hard because he's like, oh my god, now he's down bad for her. It's so funny how the roles reversed. But there's also quite a bit of child abuse in this book, so again, check your trigger warnings for this book. But I had such a great time reading this. It was just so much fun. I cannot wait for the second one, and I'm so glad that I finally read my first Rena Kent book, because, like, a lot of her books are series, but this is the start of a new series, and she said you could read this as a complete standalone. So I'm excited to get into more of her books, but also I do want to read some more dark romance, but at least I finally read, 2 more, because I only read 3 dark romance this year, but at least I've read more than last year. Because that was one of my 2025 goals, was to read more dark romance and cowboy romance, and I've read both of those this year, so yay me. So the next book that I read was actually my next buddy read with Felicia, and this was the, like, end of my mood reading week. What is up with this ant? All right, hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. So next up, I read this book with Felicia, and that is Julie Clark's The Ghostwriter. This was actually a new release in June as well. This was not even on my radar for June. I didn't even talk about this in my new releases because I didn't know what it was until Felicia talked to me about it, and I was like 100% want to read it. I wanted to read another thriller. So if I didn't read this book, I would have read Billy Summers. But like I said, we're working on Billy Summers right now, so we will get that read this month. Mark my words. I know I say that every month, but I actually did start it last month, so I should finish it by the end of this month. So anyway, this book is about the Taylor family, and the main character's name is Olivia Dumont, and basically she is a ghostwriter, but she's actually a struggling ghostwriter, and she needs to get, like, a job in order to keep her house in LA, because that's where she lives, and obviously, LA is, like, expensive as shit. So her dad, which she hasn't seen her dad in, like, a long time, because she believes that her dad killed, like, some of her siblings growing up. I believe some of her siblings, or maybe some of his siblings. I think it's his siblings, actually. So, she believes that he's a murderer. So she is actually asked and requested by her father to come write his memoir. Or like I think it was a novel, but it turns out that she has to go ghostwrite his his memoir of what happened that night. What happened the night of the murders. But also her father is going through this illness. I forget what it's called, but it's basically like a version of Alzheimer's, but like it can be a lot more violent. So he's slowly like losing his memory. So like she has to write this book, but also like she has to deal with like, his nurse like taking care of him, and she has like a really tight deadline on when this book needs to be done. So, she has to talk to him when he's able to remember what's happened. But also like he's done some fucked up shit to her when she was growing up. So I can understand why she doesn't want to talk to him anymore. So it's like a pretty fucked up relationship that they have as well. But basically this book was really good. I gave it just a solid 4 stars because I felt like it was a bit predictable at the end, but really, really good writing. Me and Felicia gave Wild Dark Shore and The Ghostwriter both the same rating, which is crazy that we both felt the same way about both of these books, but they were both so good. But I thought Wild Dark Shore was better. But this was still really, really good. Basically, she finds like these tapes of like, film of him when he was, growing up, and that basically gets her like the information that she needs in order to find out who the fuck killed everybody that night. So it was good. I really liked it. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't like giving away too much with thrillers because it can be really spoilery. And then, of course, the last 2 books that I read in June, I just really was dying to jump into this series finally. So I was like, let me just start it. This series only took me like 8 days to finish. I binged the shit out of this series. I started it the 25th and I finished it the 3rd of July. Okay? Because I read the last 2 books in July. So I read An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. Amazing books, you guys. These books deserve all the hype. I gave this book a 4.75, and I gave A Torch Against the Night a 4.5. Spoiler alert, A Reaper at the Gates was my favorite, and I gave it a 5 stars. But anyway, amazing, fantastic books. So basically, these books are about Leia, I mean, not Leia. This ain't Star Wars, bitch. Leia. Oh my god, why can oh my god, what's wrong with me? Now I'm tired. I've been yapping too long. Laia, Helene, and Elias. And Laia is the main female character. And basically they all develop like powers throughout the series. But they all like serve this higher power that's evil. And it's called the Nightbringer. That's all I'm going to tell you guys. Basically, Elias and Helene develop like a love triangle. I'm trying to remember like exactly what all these books were about because now I'm freaking tired. So in Ember in the Ashes, you find out who the Ember in the Ashes is in the first book, and then the Torch Against the Night, you find out who the Torch Against the Night is in the second book. But I really don't want to say too much, but basically this is YA fantasy with a subplot of romance, because the romance is not that strong in the first 2 books, but the plot is so fast-paced and so addicting. I cannot believe how fast Sabaa Tahir writes, but you don't feel like it's rushed. The flow of her writing is incredible, and it's just so good and so bingeable, and I loved this series, and I'm so glad that I finally got to it, and I finished it the 3rd of July. I finished A Sky Beyond the Storm. And it was just phenomenal. Phenomenal series. I just really, really enjoyed it. That's all I'm going to say. All right? You just have to read it. There's a lot of like ghost, paranormal kind of magic in it. And basically they're all trying to... Okay. I will say this. They're all trying to stop the corruption of their emperor and their empire, because he also has a commandant that's like a bloodthirsty bitch. And basically, it's Elias's mother. And Elias does not want all of this corruption to be happening in his, and the way things are going in his realm. He wants to change things as well. But Laia, always like warns him, like, since your mother is the commandant, you have to be careful. And he's like, I want to do everything I can for the rebellion. And also Laia's brother as well wants to do everything for the rebellion. He's always like out, like, fighting people and killing people and stuff. And he gets captured at one point. So basically Laia like has to save him in the first book. And then the second book, Helene like really comes into her character in the second book, and a lot of it's based, and a lot of her character, it's a lot about her character in the second book. Can I speak? Because again, Laia and Helene are both in love with Elias, so that ends up developing more so in the second book. So, and I think there's a bit of a battle in the second book as well. Just phenomenal books. You have to read them. If you've been thinking about reading these books, I'm so glad that I finally got to them. And that's about it, you guys. So again, had a fantastic reading month. I really read a lot of books that I really loved. Can I speak? Reading month. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at cbw819. And check out my Goodreads and my TikTok, both linked below. I post a lot of book talk content on TikTok, and I write every single review of every book that I read on Goodreads. If you want to see all of my thoughts on the books, you can always check out my Goodreads. So yeah, and you can follow me there too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So I already said that before, and I hope you guys keep reading. And if you guys are interested in any of these books, let me know. Let me know what books you're looking forward to read in July and this month. The one that I'm looking forward to the most for new releases, because I don't, again, have that many new releases this month. I mean, I just finished one arc earlier today, which was A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping that comes out the 15th. And I started Made for Each Other by Lynn Painter, which comes out the 17th of July, which is the other arc that I got a while back. But the one I'm looking forward to the most is the second book to Fear the Flames, which is Wrath of the Dragons. I literally cannot wait for that book. That doesn't come out to the end of the month, but that's my most anticipated read this month. But we're just going to be working on my TBR for July. So yeah, and like I said, I've already finished 5 books, so we're on a roll. So yeah, that's it. Bye.